Hey everyone, welcome to Faith Unfiltered. Today we're sharing a powerful testimony from Jonathan Lamb's cousin and Joni Lamb's nephew, someone who can no longer stay silent. After seeing the harsh accusations against Jonathan and Susie Lamb, he's stepping forward to share his side of the story. What you're about to hear is a personal journey of truth, struggle, and faith. It all starts with a chiropractor who worked at Daystar, a name that came up in Julie Roy's report. His behavior was deeply concerning, yet when warnings were raised, they were brushed aside by none other than Joni Lamb herself. What's even more troubling? These red flags appeared before the allegations involving Susie, yet nothing was done. As the letter unfolds, you'll hear about the challenges he and his wife faced while trying to protect their child from unsettling family behavior. He describes inappropriate comments and actions from a relative, including an unhealthy obsession with their baby's diaper changes. Jonathan's testimony also reveals something disturbing, a pattern of manipulation. Joni allegedly used her influence to control, intimidate, and even threaten their jobs. And when that didn't work, she turned to anger and deception. If that sounds familiar, it's because Jonathan and Susie's story has eerie similarities. As we uncover this letter, we will write it out clearly and read it aloud so you can fully understand the message being shared. Now let's get into it. Our experience with Daystar Chiropractor. For years, we walked in quiet, seldom sharing our experiences. This is not out of revenge. We could have done this a long time ago. We wanted peace for our family. For us to get back in it feels like we are risking so much of the peace that we fought so hard for. Our desire has been to walk in love and forgiveness while being obedient to the Lord. The decision to share our story has come after much prayer, and we believe is relevant in light of everything that has been revealed by Jonathan and Susie. I am Joni's nephew and Jonathan's cousin. I came to work at Daystar in 2015 and worked there until spring of 2021. During my time there, the chiropractor would work on various family members and employees in the Daystar green room. I was warned by Joni that anytime he worked on one of the young women, another person should be present, usually the husband. I wasn't too alarmed about this initially because that seemed like a good idea for any adult male working on young women to have accountability present. So I was present anytime he worked on my wife. At first, this wasn't a problem. Later, however, the chiropractor started to voice irritation at my presence during my wife's adjustments. During some adjustments, he would make multiple comments about my wife's body. Then he texted me that he wanted to buy me and my wife dinner and said he wanted us to come swimming afterward at his house. He told and texted me to remind me that he wanted my wife to be sure to bring her swimsuit. We were alarmed and concerned and alerted Joni. These incidents were prior to Susie's alleged abuse. Marketing to prayer experience from my wife's perspective, I worked in marketing under Rachel for almost a year. The people who worked in marketing as a whole were very nice, but it was very tense and stressful when Rachel was around. It was not what I would consider a healthy work environment. It was similar to other people's testimonies. The environment became increasingly more toxic. I scheduled a meeting with Rachel to respectfully share my concerns. In addition to the toxic work environment, she made fun of a close family member of mine a couple of times in front of staff, and there was no accountability for her. My husband and I shared the work environment issues with Joni, which we were quickly shut down and accused of being judgmental. Things continued to deteriorate, and I started to notice the effect the stress was having on my body, so I decided to step down from marketing. After leaving marketing, I took some time and went back to school to work on my master's degree. While working towards that, I worked at Heart for the World, and I loved getting to pray for and encourage those that would call in with God's word. I decided to try and see if I could get a job in the prayer department. This was an entry-level position, however. When I applied for the job interview was with Joni, Jai, Susie's dad, and Jonathan. It seemed odd to me that Joni, the co-founder of Daystar, would sit in for a prayer partner job interview, as I don't think that was the normal protocol. The interview proceeded like any other interview at first, but then Joni asked Jonathan and Jai to leave, and it was just me and Joni. Joni then told me the Lord loves a teachable heart. Susie has a teachable heart. I want you to have a teachable heart like Susie. She told me I was on a 3-month probation period, and her specific expectation was that I was to like and comment on Rachel's social media posts, and I was not supposed to tell Rachel or anyone. That night, I liked and commented on one of Rachel's social media posts. Joni texted me and said that Rachel had asked her if she had talked to me about liking her social media posts. Joni in text said no to Rachel, but in reality, she had talked to me about it. I was conflicted, but I wanted to have a teachable heart, so I was trying to please Joni. I thought she, being a ministry leader, would know what the Lord loved, and she told me the Lord loved a teachable heart, so I wanted to please the Lord. Meetings with Joni. We had a family member whom my wife and I were concerned about and tried to distance ourselves from them. This family member in reference is not Pete, but someone different. We noticed some behavior from this family member that was concerning. The more time we spent, the more uncomfortable we became. We didn't feel comfortable spending time around this family member, and we felt like the Lord was warning us to separate ourselves from them. When we distanced ourselves by not spending as much time around them, it caused quite a stir in the family. Joni took this as an opportunity to get involved. Me and my wife tried to back away very quietly and didn't want to cause any problems. Joni would call me into private meetings to discuss the issue, sometimes alone, sometimes with other people. Most of the time, I had limited warning, having to leave my desk at work to attend them. I worked in the accounting department at Daystar. At first, I thought she wanted to help, but the longer these meetings went on, I realized that wasn't the case. When we raised issues of some of the comments that this family member had made, such as an off-the-cuff comment to my expecting wife with our first child that we were excited about. If you want an abortion, I know a guy. A joke about torture inflicted by piranhas being funny, and an instance where they responded to a telemarketer by joking they would be right back, but only after they finished having sex with a goat. My wife and I started feeling uncomfortable with this person being around our baby. In these meetings, I shared this with Joni, and she responded that some Christians have different senses of humor. We felt this was not a sense of humor issue, but something was very wrong. These comments, plus this family member's interest in being around diaper changes, even when we would go into a separate room, began to concern me more and more. This happened multiple times and with growing frequency. In one instance, at Joni's lake house, our child needed a diaper change. So my wife told me she needed to change our child's diaper, and she'd be back. She left the living room, and the family member followed behind my wife and went into our bedroom across the house near the entrance. Susie noticed the family member follow my wife, so she followed and asked what this family member was doing when he went into our bedroom while my wife was preparing to change our child's diaper. Susie said, "What are you doing?" The family member lingered, and Susie asked the family member to leave. The final straw was during a family movie night. We had our child sleeping in a pack and play in a separate room while we were watching a movie. Then this particular family member got up and went in the direction of that room, which I thought was odd. I got up and followed behind them to the room, and the family member was sitting in the dark with the lights off on the couch beside the pack and play where my child was sleeping just 5 feet away. I questioned them, asking, "Why are you in here?" The family member didn't know what to say. I told him to get out of the room and not to go in there if my child was sleeping. When we brought up this last event, we were told by this family that that room was their safe place, and that is why they wanted to go in there. However, this family member had his own room upstairs. Due to this incident and the odd and strange explanation from the family, we started to distance ourselves from them. We felt our concerns were not being taken seriously, so with a great amount of caution, we decided to protect our child and limit interaction and access with this family member. Due to this, we started receiving pressure from Joni, stating we were dividing the family. It was after this that Joni started to hold meetings where she would call me in, and I shared my concerns. She would take the opportunity to target my wife. She felt my wife was the root cause of dissension in the family when we chose to distance ourselves, and she would try to convince me that my wife was controlling and manipulating me, that I had no reason to be concerned regarding this family member, and instead that I should stand up to my wife. I expressed that I was in complete agreement with my wife concerning the red flags regarding the family member. While trying to convince me that my wife was being manipulative, Joni would tell me, "You need to use wisdom with what you share with your wife." I didn't think this was right, as my wife and I are one, and I believe we should never keep any information or secrets from the other. She would bring up other husbands in the family, citing them as good examples for getting their wives in line, and that I should do the same. Joni tried pressuring me into going to a counselor over the issue, but only the counselor she wanted. At first I agreed. Right after agreeing to counseling, I began to receive phone calls from various family members who were very upset at us, especially at my wife. They expressed nearly identical wording as Joni had, and I began to suspect that Joni was privately having conversations with them. I believed their issues with us were not organic, but sparked and stoked like a flame by Joni. I now had to put out fires with other relatives. It felt like a coordinated pressure campaign, so I decided to let Joni know I would not attend counseling. Going to counseling felt like a trap, and I did not have peace about going after she isolated us from the family by these coordinated attacks. She was absolutely livid, telling me I was double-minded and not a man of my word. Later that week, I was called into another meeting. In that meeting, Joni told me that I had no choice but to go to her counselor. I told her, that isn't right. You can't just force someone to go to counseling against their will. Joni said, you will go because it is affecting your work performance. I respectfully responded, it is not, and a personal matter of not wanting to spend time around another family member is not grounds for being forced into counseling by an employer. She abruptly ended the meeting. 2 hours later, while on my lunch break, I was called into another meeting. This time when I walked in, she had my boss in there. I always had a great relationship with my boss, and she tried to use him to persuade me to submit to her. He was in a rock and a hard place, being asked to share with me the importance of family and listening to elders. She never asked him about my work performance in front of me, leading me to believe she asked him before I came in, and he answered not to her liking. I had one final meeting with Joni. During this meeting, she switched her tune, being very friendly. She told me about the future plans she had for me, that one day I would help Jonathan run Daystar as his right-hand man. This is something she had expressed to me multiple times in my years in Texas. But money and positional authority weren't what motivated me. I believed that if God wanted it to happen, it would, but regardless, I should be content with whatever my lot in life is. Joni tried to convince me to spend time with that family member at least once a month. I told her I didn't feel like that's what the Lord wanted me to do. When she saw that I wasn't complying, she became angry and her eyes were like daggers. She threatened my job and dismissed me from the meeting. We are so thankful we didn't back down, despite the intimidation and threats, and that we held to our convictions from the Lord, because we believed our child would have been in great danger. For years, we kept much of our experiences to ourselves, choosing instead to walk in forgiveness. But after seeing what happened to Jonathan and Susie, we realized we weren't alone. We felt a conviction from the Lord to come forward, knowing we could not stand on the sidelines any longer. That marks the end of the letter. This story reveals something deeply troubling within Daystar, a pattern of control, spiritual abuse, and suppression of truth. The brave voices of this whistleblower stand as a testament to their faith and conviction. If you've experienced something similar or have a piece of this puzzle, we invite you to come forward. Together, we can bring these hidden truths to light. We'll keep following this story and sharing updates as they unfold. If you found this video insightful, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that matter.